All right, here we go. Video number 2 for the day. We have starting off with a first edition PSA 9 Giovanni's Gyarados that sold for 100 or best offer. And for that one, we have a new price point. If that did sell for 100, the last two sold for 81 and 89 respectively. So if you have this one, which probably sold for 90 to 95, but with taxes and everything, they're probably around $100. Then we had a first edition PSA 10 Koga's Beedrill. That was 950 or best offer. Again, the last PSA 9 sold for like 65. So the 950 or best offer maybe got 800. Either way, I think that PSA 9, that first edition PSA 9 is going to, sorry, my hair's all messed up today. It's Uraki. That PSA 9 is going to grow because even if this sold for 750, which I'm pretty sure it sold for more, that's more than that 10 times threshold. The PSA 10, the upper end of that is usually going to sell between 5 and 8 times. Again, 10 times is usually the max. Again, sometimes you have special cases like Misty's Golduck and that Fossil Lapras. Moving on, we have a first edition Blaine's Arcanine. It was raw, and this thing, it had a dent in the back, or it had a dent on both sides. The front right, opposite of where the first edition would be, had a small dent, and then on the back side, you could only see it if you look at it a certain way, but it was there. I think it would have gotten a PSA 7 just from the whitening and edge wear, but then that dent on top of that, I'm pretty sure that would have gotten a 4. I mean, my trophy Kangaskhan, which got a 4, looked much, much prettier than that. There was really no whitening, a little bit. It would have given it an 8 or a 9, but that dent, which would have gave it a 7, it just PSA goes very, very harshly with dents. So even if the dent wasn't there, I would have given a 7. But with that dent being there, again, visible on both sides. Trophy Kangaskhan is only visible on one side, only if you looked at it at a certain angle. By the way, it sold for $30. The second bid was 29. The third bid was 21. Now we had a first edition PSA 9 Hollow Electrode. And then we also had a PSA 9 reverse foil Electrode from the Legendary Collection. So I have the holographic Electrode, which was from Jungle, and then the reverse hollow, which was from the Legendary Collection. That sold from 77. Second bid was 76. Third bid was 66. And the fourth bid was 60. Moving on, we have a first edition PSA 10 Blaine's Arcanine. Not 100% sure what it sold for. I think this is euros or pounds. I can never tell. It's got the E thing. I don't know. But for 12.50, whatever that was, British for all pounds or euros, it is $1,516 US. So $1,500 or best offer. And what it was listed for, again, we don't 100% know. I'm going to guess it's going to be more than $1,000. If you're listing something for 1,500, you're probably not going to take $1,000. You're probably going to take 1,100. I have, obviously, again, going to that Misty's Golduck, listed for 4,000. I think that person was just doing a ridiculous price though. If someone bought it at that price, they'd sell it, but they obviously sold it for much less than that. Taking away a third of that would be, say, 1,300, 2,700. Maybe he did sell it for that. I don't know. Either way, this one, I can't see it going for less than 1,000. I'm going to say 1,100, maybe 1,200. Either way, we do have a Misty's Golduck first edition PSA 9. It was 125 or best offer. And this is something that I'm thinking, you have 125 or best offer, someone should have bought that right away. But I offered 80. They declined that. And they didn't just decline it, they just let the offer expire. And then as soon as it did expire, I bid 95 on it, thinking, all right, we have $5 shipping and we have $8 tax, cost me 108. Sold. He did it. Done. So I got something that the 10 is selling for 22 to 25 times more than the 9, which is ridiculous. So this first edition PSA 9. All right, so to put this in perspective, you have that first edition PSA 10 Typhlosion from Neo Genesis. Number 17 is very big different because number 18 is like an okay card worth a couple $100. But the 10 worth $10,000 and the 9 is worth 700. So let's say we cut, and again, that's also at the upper end of normal. But we take that in half. If something is selling for 2,500, then this should be worth minimum 350. So, or I'm sorry, it was 5,000. It should be minimum 350. Cut it again, 25 half. All right, so 175. If we're doing the same rate, but again, I still think that holographic first edition PSA 9 Typhlosion has a lot of room to grow. I think it should be $1,000 card. And the only two that are out there right now are on sale for $799 and $1,500. So that $799 one should get bought up pretty quickly. But moving back to the Misty's Golduck, the sale price was $95, again, not including shipping and tax. And there's DCA Card World or DACA Card World, whoever they are. They are, again, $135. They have them listed for. So again, I think tremendous room for growth. This should be at least a $300 card, in my opinion. Just because of how expensive the PSA 10 is. Anyway, moving on, we have a first edition Neo Genesis Feraligatr, number 4. This was also, again, the fourth is a less rare one. And when I say that, I mean the first edition Feraligatr from Neogen, number 5, is the one that only has 18 PSA 10 copies. And I did the math with this. Between the 8s and the 9s and the 10s of the PSA 5 copies, that has 37 more copies graded than the PSA 4, which is the... Oh, no, I'm sorry. The PSA 4 has 37 more copies graded than the PSA 5, as far as we're just doing the PSA 8 through 10. So in that pop report, that number 4, there's 37 more graded copies out there from 8 to 10. I'm just bringing home that point. That being said, this less rare one, PSA 8, sold for $70. And the second bid was $69. Third bid was $68. So they're all right next to each other. Very good. And the fourth bid was $45. So if we're taking this data point of PSA 8 should get half of what the PSA 9 sells for, the PSA 9 selling for about $140 then, which makes sense. I feel like that would be good for this. So moving on, we have a first edition PSA 9 Erica's Venusaur. It was on sale for $149.99 plus $6.50 shipping. That sold immediately. I wasn't even watching this one, so it must have gone up and then sold immediately, because I get notifications from eBay anytime someone's a first edition WotC Holo PSA 9. I get notified, so I take a look at it. And they must have put it up, and it must have sold within like a few minutes, because I did not get the notification for that. So someone sniped it. Good for you guys. And on we have a Misty's Gyarados first edition PSA 9. This is an interesting one too. Sold for $123, and the second bid was $121, and third bid was $105. Now previously this card has sold for like $143, and then $140. And then it had a $122 or best offer. So the $140 is the record price point for the PSA 9, and I think that's a little high right now, because the PSA 10 version, the lowest you'll see it on sale for right now is $175. I'm sorry, $275 for the PSA 10 version, and there's 12 of them on sale right now on eBay. So there's just not a lot of demand for this card. There is sorry, I got a text. Okay, then I have to give them a call back. So I'll end this video in a little bit. I'll read this up. The PSA 10 version, again, 12 of them on sale. So not that the card's not beautiful artwork, but because it has, how many PSA 10 copies? I didn't write that down. I think it has 100 more copies in the pop report for PSA 10, again, first edition, than Giovanni's Gyarados. Giovanni's Gyarados, I think, has 118 PSA 10 copies, and the Misty's Gyarados has like 223 PSA 10 copies. So right now there's a lot of them, so I don't think this PSA 9 should have gotten, that 140, or maybe 120 is a good price point. But if that's true, then the PSA 10s are selling for, the last one that sold was for $250 or best offer. It wasn't $250, so it was probably like a $225. If the PSA 10s are only selling $10 more than what the 9s are, I don't think the 10s are going to grow that not that quickly. I think right now the correction has to be the PSA 9s should probably go for $100, $110 because something like this, when the market is a bit saturated, that also throws the numbers off. But maybe eventually that PSA 10 will grow. I know it will eventually. Right now, you're just seeing that's going to stall because, again, there's not a lot of demand, and there's 12 of them out there right now. So moving on past that, we have a first edition PSA 9 Dragonite from the Fossil. It is from the Fossil set. It's a holo. Sold for $232, and the second bid was $230. Third bid was $220, and the fourth bid was $200. And then finally, the big one, Blaine's Charizard, first edition PSA 9. Now, this is the first one that is sold that has not sold as a or best offer. Yeah, the 610 or best offer, 510 or best offer. This one sold at auction for $550. The second bid was $549. Third bid was $520. The fourth bid was like $440 something, I think. So this makes sense what I was saying. I said between $500 and $600. That's where it's going to land, at exactly at $550. And we have still right now the PSA 10s that I was telling you about for the Blaine's Charizard. It was 3 days to go on the one that's already at $1250. Then we have 4 days to go on the one that's $1175. So right now, again, I'd say that's going to be $1,500 for the first one, and this Blaine's Charizard, it's a new record price point for the auction, first edition PSA 9. That's a fair price point, I think, right now. Again, if the PSA 10 sells for $1,500, like I said, this $550 is good. That's on the lower end. The 10's only selling for about three times what the 9 is. But if, again, these 7s and 8s and 9s are so expensive that I think the 10 is going to start selling for more. Now, the reason Arcanine is selling around on par with it, $1,100, $1,300, or both of them were over $1,000, the last two that sold. Or I guess the last three, because this one was a $1,500 or best offer. That is because why it's keeping up with them a little bit is because the Arcanine, again, has less than half the PSA 10 copies. I think it has 127, whereas Charizard has like 278. So I would say the Charizard is probably a little easier to grade, and people just grade it more. So there's probably a lot more regrades as well, and I think maybe these people are saying, "Oh, these look good. I can buy a 9, regrade it," and maybe they can. I don't know, but if these numbers don't change, the 9 stays steady, I think the PSA 10 Charizard is going to have a lot of room to grow. I think eventually, I'm going to make a prediction. This time next year, that Charizard will be worth $2,000. Again, this is just my prediction. I don't have a crystal ball, but this first edition PSA 10 Blaine's Charizard will be worth $2,000 by March of 2021. March of 2021. I think it'll be reach 1,500 very soon, and you'll see that steadily climb. Maybe the virus that everyone's freaking out about might have a hindrance on collectibles in the future. It hasn't yet. It hasn't, because I feel like most people that collect, they tend to have a little bit of money, or they have jobs. But either way, that's my prediction, and I'll see you guys soon. Bye.